There's a footnote here, indication. Leo X had begun his pontificate by selling to Francis I what did not belong to him, the rights of the Church of France, and at a later period as a means of raising money. He created 30 cardinals at once, but these were trifling resources. He was not owner of the mines of Mexico. His mines were the ancient faith of the people, their easy credulity, and he had sold the right of working them in Germany to the Dominicans. The Dominicans, Tetzel, an imprudent mountebank, went about with great bustle, display, and expense, hawking his ware in the churches, public streets, and taverns. He paid over to his employers as little as possible. Pocketing the balance, as the Pope's legate proved against him sometime later. So he was getting all this money, generating all this money, and he was spending it lavishly on himself, which proves then he was a greedy man. Yeah. That's why the Pope was running out of money, because it wasn't coming in, because this guy had it and he was fleecing it, right, for himself, pocketing the balance. There was nothing new in the method of raising money by indulgences. This had been formerly on several occasions practiced by the court of Rome, and none had been found more effectual. Leo, therefore, 1517, published general indulgences throughout all Europe in favour of those who would contribute any sum to the building of St. Peter's, and appointed persons in different countries to preach up these indulgences and to receive money for them or from them. Albert of Brandenburg, Archbishop of Mainz and Magdeburg, who was soon after made a cardinal, had a commission for Germany, and Luther assures us that he was to have half the money that was to be raised, which does not seem improbable, for Albert's court was at that time very luxurious and splendid, and he had borrowed 30,000 florins of that opulent family, the Fuggers of Augsburg, to pay the Pope for the bulls of his archbishop, bishopric, papacy bulls, right? Which sum he was bound to repay. Be this, however, as it will, Albert gave out this commission to John Tetzel, or Tertullius, a Dominican friar, and others of his order. These indulgences were immediately exposed to sale, and Tetzel boasted of having so large a commission from the Pope that though a man should have deflowered the Virgin Mary, yet for money he might have pardoned. He added further that he did not only give pardon for sins past, but for sins to come. So how the hell could this man be a redeemer, a forgiver of sins? Isn't it for Christ alone? This guy could forgive sins. Come on, man. A book came out also at the same time under the sanction of the Archbishop, in which orders were given to the commissioners and collectors to enforce and press the power of indulgences. These persons performed their offices with great zeal indeed, but not with sufficient judgment and policy. They overacted their parts, so that the people to whom they were become very troublesome, saw through the cheat, being at length convinced that under a pretence of indulgences they only meant to plunder the Germans, and that far from being solicitous about saving the souls of others, their only view was to enrich themselves. So they're a bunch of liars. They're just collecting coin for their indulgences, for them to be rich, wealthy. They don't give a stuff about anybody else. These strange proceedings gave great offence at Wittenberg, and particularly inflamed the pious zeal of Luther. So these people realise that they're being ripped off, they're being cheated. These strange proceedings gave great offence at Wittenberg, and particularly inflamed the pious zeal of Luther, who, being naturally warm and active, and in the present case unable to repress his indignation, was determined to declare against him whatever might be the consequence. Whatever the end result would be, whether he be expelled, face expulsion from the Roman Catholic Church, be burnt at the stake, etc., etc. It has been said by Father Paul in his history of the Council of Trent, and after him by Hume in his history of England, as well as by others, that the Austin friars had been usually employed in preaching indulgences in Saxony, and that Luther was prompted at first to oppose Tetzel and his associates and to deny indulgences by a desire of taking revenge for this injury offered to his order. Such was the representation of Bossuet, and other writers misled by his authority have circulated a similar opinion. It is proper, therefore, to observe that the publication of indulgences in Germany was not usually committed to the Augustines. From 1229, the lucrative commission was principally entrusted to the Dominicans, and they had been employed in the same office a short time before the present period. The promulgation of them at 3 different periods under Julius II was granted to the Franciscans, and the guardian of the Franciscans was joined in the trust with Albert on this occasion, though he refused to accept it. And it is remarkable that for half a century before Luther, from 1450 to 1517, the name of an Austin friar employed in this service occurs but once. To these facts it may be added that this is far from being probable that Luther would have been solicitous about obtaining for himself or his order a commission of this kind at a time the preaching of indulgences was become very unpopular, when all the princes of Europe and many bishops, as well as others learned men, abhorred the traffic. And saints, therefore, in 1517, he publicly fixed up at the church next to the castle of that town a thesis upon indulgences. So he might have put his some information on that door, noted up there for all to see. In the beginning of which he challenged anyone to oppose it, either by writing or disputation. This thesis contained 95 propositions, in which, however, he did not directly oppose indulgences in themselves, nor the power of the Church to grant them, but only maintained that the Pope could release no punishments but what he inflicted, and indulgences could be nothing but a relaxation of ecclesiastical penalties, that they affected only the living, that the dead were not subject to canonical penances or payments, and so could not receive no benefit by indulgences, and that such as were in purgatory could not by them be delivered from the punishment of their sins, that indeed the Pope did not grant indulgences to the souls of the dead, by virtue of the power of the keys, but by way of suffrage, that indulgences seldom remit or punishment, that those who believe they shall be saved by indulgences only shall be damned with their masters, that contrition can procure remission of the fault and punishment without indulgences, but that indulgences can do nothing without contrition, that the Pope's indulgence is not to be condemned because it is the declaration of a pardon obtained of God, but only to be preached up with caution, lest the people should think it preferable to do good works, that Christians should be instructed how much better it is to abound in works of mercy and charity to the poor, than to purchase a pardon, to buy a pardon, and that it is a matter of indifference either to buy or not to buy an indulgence, that indulgences are not to be trusted, etc., etc. This is the doctrine of Luther's thesis, in which, if he does not attack indulgences directly, he certainly represents them as useless and ineffectual. He also condemns in it several propositions which he attributes to his adversaries, and inveighs against several abuses of which he affirms them guilty, as for example, the reserving ecclesiastical penances for purgatory, or commuting them into the pains of purgatory, teaching that indulgences free men from all the guilt and punishments of sin, preaching that the soul, which they please to release out of purgatory, flies immediately to heaven when the money is cast into the chest, maintaining that these indulgences are an estimable gift by which man is reconciled to God, exacting from the poor, contrary to getting it from the poor, right? Getting it from them, robbing them of it, contrary to the Pope's intentions, causing the preaching of the word of God to cease in other churches, that they may have a greater concourse of people than those where indulgences are preached, advancing the scandalous assertion that the Pope's indulgences have such a virtue as to be able to absolve a man though he has ravished the Mother of God, which is a thing impossible, publishing that the cross with the arms of the Pope is equal to the cross of Christ, etc. Such positions as these, says he, have made people ask unjustly why the Pope, out of charity, does not deliver all souls out of purgatory without having to ask for a penance, coin, since he can deliver so great a number for a little money given for the building of a church. Why he suffers prayers and anniversaries for the dead, which are certainly delivered out of purgatory by indulgences. Why the Pope, who is richer than several Croesuses, cannot build the church of St. Peter with his own money, but at the expense of the poor, etc. In thus attacking indulgences and the commissioners appointed to publish them, Luther seemed to attack Albert, the Archbishop of Mainz, under whose name and authority they were published. Of this he was himself aware, and therefore at the very eve on which he fixed up his thesis, he wrote a letter to him, in which, after humbly representing to him the grievances just recited, he besought him to remedy and correct them, and concluded with imploring pardon for the freedom he had taken, protesting that what he did was out of duty, and with a faithful and submissive temper of mind, and so forth. Yeah, there's a lot more information through this book. It's a great one to read, so you can fully understand the Roman Catholic Church and Martin Luther in those days. So they just point the finger and say, because the Bible says this, the Bible says that. You need to know exactly what went down through these writings, these memoirs, etc. of Martin Luther himself. So if you have found that this video is very, very interesting, it's opened your eyes to who Martin Luther actually was and what he actually wrote and did in the Reformation and his protest against the Roman Catholic Church, then subscribe to our channel, give us the thumbs up or a like, add your comments below. We'll get back to you on those as soon as we can. We're not attacking Roman Catholic believers on a personal level. We're just making them aware, according to your church father, your scribe, your monk Martin Luther, this is what was going on. And this is what was basically said of the corrupted church in his era, the Roman Catholic Church. It could be in relation, this church could be in relation to the book of Revelations, the one that's going to be under God's wrath and be totally destroyed, etc., etc. But you have to study those scriptures and verify that is established fact. Okay, that's what those scriptures actually say. Because we've got this funny feeling it's not necessarily that church, but it could be a part of that entire empire religious system that's going to be destroyed. Because we, through reading the original Galilean Aramaic New Testament translated into English, the nearest English equivalent, by that translator, Victor Alexander from Mesopotamia, Syria. It's giving us this funny feeling, these ideas that it's not so much this Roman Catholic Church. If they reform and they become the greatest church, holy, pure, of God, well then that would change the whole situation, wouldn't it? Okay, like the popes, maybe Pope Francis or what he says, yeah, okay, we're sorry about all the nasty things that the Roman Catholic Church did over the centuries to other people, etc., etc. We try to make reforms, we try to make it better, improve it, etc., etc. Is he doing that? Is it happening? Is it going to happen? Well, not really sure. Yeah? We need to study it more and know exactly what's going on. But we've got this inclination from reading those original Galilean Aramaic scriptures translated into the nearest English equivalent by Victor, that it's actually pointing to a different nation that's going to be destroyed. When we can understand, it has to be, because then this new holy city, New Jerusalem, it comes down from the heavens, and then it's on the earth, and then the earth becomes a new heaven and new earth. The old earth, heaven, the old earth passes away, and this new earth is created. Then, it fits, but we still got to work on it and verify it as established fact somehow that this is prophecy and that is going to happen. We do make a lot of personal predictions on a day-to-day basis, but we're not saying we have insight, we're prophets, or we're the next Jesus, or some sort of guru that's had visions, or that sort of rubbish. Right? These are just like, guessworks. That this person's trying to do this, and it leads up to that being evident. So we have to put our own personal securities in place to stop them from doing it. Okay, so again, if you really like this video, subscribe to our channel, The Ministry of the Real Truth. Give us a like. Add your comments below. You can get this book for free. Just click on the link that we provide, if it actually is free. We'll recheck that. And then you can go read this entire book for yourself at your own leisure, in your own time, your own space.